welcome. It's the Ball at All Cost podcast. We are back. We are back once again, like the Renegade Master. And we have our esteemed panel and a guest today. Adam, how you doing, my friend? I've not caught up with you since an academy match a while back.
Yeah, it's quite a few weeks ago. Yeah, I'm good. Just plodding along, mate, as usual.
Yeah. How's your leg?
Much better now. Yeah. Good. Let's not talk about that. Never happening again.
Oh, all right, cool.
I'll leave that to the little one now.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to get into that, I think. How are we doing, Deji, as you're off mute?
Yeah, look, I'm good. I'm really looking forward to this, and this starts off a series of these conversations. But yeah, I'm good. I've had a crazy week so far, but crazy and good.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for you to get back to me, by the way. But
yes, you will know that by the end of this evening. Yeah.
Dan, what's going on? You're still repping the print co, I see.
I have to. Self-made me to be a millionaire one day, so I've got to make sure I've got my shares and investment in line.
Okay, Doughboy.
Me or Dej?
Whoever's going to be the millionaire.
I've seen a flat cap before it was Doughboy with a flat cap.
Yeah, true stories. True stories.
He's already a millionaire.
Probably. He will be. Have you voted for him?
Always.
All right. Side note, if everyone can vote for Deji Spurs, vote for him. We'll share, you know what? We'll share your link in the comments. Let's get that going, shall we?
Yeah.
Guys, listen, talking about comments, please can you subscribe? The subscribers are going up by the week and we appreciate it, but we're not at the number we need to be. So can you subscribe if you've listened to one episode, as long as you've liked it or not been offended by it, please subscribe, please like, comment, notification, all of that good stuff. And now we shall continue. We're asking parents to come on what life is about or what it's like. Adam has been the first guest on to discuss this. So let's go. Let's get into it. How are you doing, Adam? And do you mind telling us about your journey first before we go into your son's journey in this sport?
Mate.
We know your journey and your football career is over. We've established that. Yeah. But how did you get into football and how long have you been into football?
Well, I've been playing football since I was probably 4. I grew up in Newham, East London. Played Echo, like all the boys, obviously all our boys do now. I played for the same team up till I was about 12. Then went into a few academies myself, which is like when you look back on it now, it's just so different. Played Newham District, which was back then was the pathway really to sort of academy. It was the main pathway to academy football really, because you never really got loads of scouts coming to your games back in the day really. And it was more your district football. So obviously played for Newham. Yeah. This is a long time ago, mind you. And then I continued playing. I come from big football family. My couple of my uncles played for West Ham. My cousin's a football manager currently now. I'm one of 9, so it was a free for all. So I've got 3 brothers, and I think that's where like my family's just through the generations has always been involved in football in some capacity. So it was always inevitable that it was obviously going to then be passed on to my little boy. But I tried to play a little while ago, and that didn't go too well, so I don't play anymore. So now it's just obviously all my focus is now sort of on Hudson, making sure he gets all the opportunities that he wants and I can deliver. But yeah, that's to be fair. I played, like I said, I played up till I was about 25, and then I sort of stopped for a little while. Not that I fell out of love with it. I just didn't have. There was nowhere. It wasn't like it is now. You didn't. So I sort of stopped playing, and then I sort of went back when I was about 30, started playing again, and then had my little one, and then stopped.
So when you had the little one, so you alluded to it. You knew that he was going to play football.
Yeah, 100%.
And did he have a choice?
Not really, but not for the reasons that a lot of people would assume. See,
Okay.
like my thing about football, and Des, you will know this. My thing about football is the social side of it. All my friends now are from me playing football. That is the bottom line. My best memories are playing football, whether that was, and that's not just at academy level, that was at grassroots, that was playing adults football with my brothers. That they were like my best memories of football. And I always knew that's the path I wanted Hudson to go down, because I knew he would end up with friends for life. And pretty much now, like, he goes anywhere and he knows so many different people, and it's purely because of football.
Yeah, no, I make you right. So I've always said I wanted to give my son the gift of football, because I do think it is a gift. And I think
100%.
as you touched on, literally socially, you can go anywhere, you can communicate with people you have nothing else in common with. You'll have a hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long conversation just on football, and then it just breaks the ice, and then you dig deeper.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you say, your son's a little bit of a celebrity. Where he goes, everyone knows him. And this is what I say to my son, like, where he wants to go secondary school may not be his choice. And I say, don't worry about it. You all know people. People will know who you are, because it happens now when we go out. They know him. And I thought I was popular, but he's popular. So
it's different,
you're right.
now.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so he didn't have a choice, but he obviously loves football.
He loves football. He's obsessed with football. So he watches. So he just constantly asks about it, when's his next session is. Obviously, a few of you guys might know Hudson. He isn't the most confident of kids. He's very shy, unless he knows people and he's been around them a long time. He's very shy, so he's not. I always say, if there's a group of kids, Hudson will be at the back. That's how he is. He's never one to be, at the front. But he just gets on with everyone, and he gets on with so many different kids. It's just, I find it amazing how all these kids can come together and they just get on so well. And that's pretty much Hudson, really.
Brilliant. So talk us through before the academy life, and I'm going to open the floor up to the rest of the panel here. But talk us through Hudson's journey before the day he got scouted, if you don't mind.
So when he first started playing, he started playing just locally for a local team, and I think it was in like the South End League. He quickly outgrew that, because Hudson was doing a few bits for himself, like his one-to-ones, group sessions and stuff. He sort of quickly grew out of that. So then I moved him to a team in the Echo League, which is quite a few leagues lower down, just to get him into the Echo League to see if he enjoyed it. And again, he sort of done really well there. And then it was a case of trying to get him into the top league, because that's where, to be fair, that's where all his friends were playing. That's where all the attention is. So he played for a few teams, and he went and played a friendly. Funnily enough, Addy, who is obviously on the podcast, he recommended Hudson to come and play in this friendly. And he played for that team, which, Andrew, you know really well, and he loved it. So it was an easy choice. I'll be honest, other than the two previous teams, the last one was Hudson's choice. It was, do you want to go there? And it was just off the bat, straight away, loved it. Yeah, going there. He literally loved playing for that team. He still speaks to a couple of boys that played for that team, used to play for that team, but they're obviously now in academies. So he loved that team, and that was where he really did push on, to be fair.
So that's kind of about the time where I got to know Hudson.
Yeah.
And from the outside looking in, I saw this boy who doesn't have the biggest stature.
No.
But has the biggest personality on the field for me, because the way he gets into the bodies of players to destabilize them in order to win the ball is an art form in itself, right? Because he's often, then he played at the back. I think he still plays a lot at the back now.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
And in order to win those matchups, he had to do something different. And he created his own piece of art, his own skill, and it just amazed me. And then he can play. So
yeah, well,
he can play. So obviously the team is Ryan that he came to. I think I know the day he got scouted, but before we go there, Dej, did you have anything? Because I see you came up mute.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, and big up, I also just wanted to just give praise to your son Adam on the basis that, I consider myself a purist. I love the game in its purest form, and I think one of the things why I have extra time is I feel like you probably go through the same battle that I go through with my son. When I see your son play, he's just neat, and I love neat players. My room's not neat, but I like neat footballers. And when I say neat, clean on the ball, clean passing, tackle, reads the game well, knows how to use his body. And for me, that should speak over anything. If you can play football, that should speak over anything else. It shouldn't be about your size. It shouldn't be about how big your feet is. It should just be, can you kick a ball? Do you understand the game? And one thing I can say about your son is he can kick a ball, and bloody hell, mate, he does understand the game. So big up to him. I guess the question is, before we get into it, is, that. Sorry, I've just lost there's so many questions that I want to kind of throw at you at once, which is what I do.
This is because you always throw two questions at people. This is the problem. Stick with one.
I promised myself I ain't doing it after this. So my question is, did you always know that your son was legit? Because some parents have a belief that their kid can play ball. Some are delusional, let's just be honest. But what drives you? Because when me and you have spoken, and a little bit similar to myself, you don't take no for an answer. So where did that come? Where did that drive come from?
I think when I think about Hudson, he started playing at such a young age. He started training really young. And to be honest, it wasn't necessarily, again, just about the football. It was about getting him outside, because obviously, like, again, going back to when we grew up, you could go outside, do whatever, come home what time you wanted to, didn't matter. Now everything they do has got to be.
I had a curfew. I'm just saying.
I
would have been ready. Yeah.
I did. Whether I stuck to it or not, that's different. But he's now like Hudson. Everything Hudson does is structured. So he started young, started playing, and then when I look back on it, and I'm thinking, did he get? He always used to, when we used to take him to sessions, other parents would always say, "Oh, how old is he? He's so good, etc., etc." And then, being a cynic in me, I'm like, are they just saying that because he is on the small side? Does that make him be more noticeable? If that makes sense, are they noticing him more because he's so small, or is he as good as what they're saying is? I'm never one. Hudson could have a 10 out of 10 game. If you come and ask me after the game, how did he play? I'll turn around to you and say, done well. That is it. I'm not one of these to sit there and go, oh my God, he was amazing. But on the flip side, if he has a bad game, I'll tell you, he had a terrible game. But that's just me. I'd rather be open and honest, because I've, like Deji said, some, you do hear some stories of, and then you're going to see these kids and you think these are going to be like Messi, and you turn up and you're like, oh. So that's why I don't do that. I let Hudson do his thing. I let him play. But answer your question, Hudson, I always know I knew he could play, but one thing you have to remember is he's always been around equally as good players. So he's always been around, the top Echo League is they're all good players. You can make an argument for a lot of kids in that league to be in academies. So it's quite hard to define how good he is, because he's around such a talented group of people, especially in his team last year. He was in such a talented group of kids. It's hard to say, yeah, he's amazing. I couldn't sit here and say I know he's Hudson can play. He's a good player. That's the best you're going to get from me.
Knowing how tough you are, that's probably
exactly.
I guess look, I know I don't want to quite dive in there, but given that I've lost 2 or 3 of my questions just sitting there, I will have to just say the obvious one. Andrew, if I spoil it, just stop me, and then Dan, just stop me if you want to intervene before I go there. But look, most people's ambition is to know where their kid stands, isn't it? And one of the ways that we take joy is the fact that your child gets to an academy, whatever academy. It's almost like a confirmation, recognition that actually your child can play ball. How did you feel when you got the offer? And also,
go back. You're jumping.
I'm jumping.
You knew it. I think the reason I stop you there, Dej, you know why? Because we try and pride ourselves on being informative, right? And just because we tend to operate at the higher end of grassroots football, it doesn't mean everybody who listens to this has had the same exposure and experience, right? So that's the reason I pull you back there just for the second. Dan, I can see he's taking himself off of mute. So do you want to jump in before I answer another question?
I know. I think I've gone back and forth because of what Deji's saying there. So I had a question about similar thing, but I'll come back to that later on. So when you had Hudson in the younger and the lower Echo leagues, so we always say the aspiration is to get our boys to a level, and that's the elite level being an academy. So was that just basically you want to get him in the Echo League to eventually get to the academy? So playing in this, I'm assuming D or E or maybe to eventually get to the A to go, actually, these are my stepping stones to get to the academy. Was that your thinking?
Yeah, I think it was. To be honest, I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't one of those parents that didn't care, because we all do. We all put a lot of effort into getting your kid to a certain level. So whether that's one-to-ones, group sessions, it's a lot. Like, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time. And then part of me, I did take a step back a little bit, and I was like, what are my reasons for doing this? You know, am I doing it because Hudson is enjoying it, or is that because what I want? Because ultimately, it doesn't matter what I want; it matters what he wants, and as long as he's happy. But as a parent, of course, I wanted Hudson into an academy. I wanted him to go as far as he can. I always say to Hudson, "You're going to get a lot of people tell you that you're not going to make it." I say to him all the time, but someone has to. Someone has to make it, because if everyone listened to everyone else, there'd be no footballers, because everyone would just stop doing it. So I did want Hudson in an academy. I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat it. That's what I wanted for him. But he wanted that as well. That's what he see his friends getting signed. So he wanted that. So I said, well, this is what you need to do in order to get there.
All right, I've got a couple of questions for you on that, Adam. So with regards to you wanting it for him, do you want to explain why you wanted it for him? The obvious is an academy, but is that because you think the standard's better? There's more, it's easy for him to succeed at this age going in now, or this is the opportunity, so let's go. What were the motivations?
There's a couple of points to it. I think with Hudson, it's going to be for him, and I know this, I'm not naive to think, obviously, because of his, again, I don't want to keep saying it because then I sound like the people that I don't like saying it, is stature. You know, when you start going to, you know, I always say this, when you're playing 5-a-side, 7-a-side, it's quite easy to stand out. There's not that many players on the pitch. So if you're a talented football player, you're going to get noticed by people. When those game formats start getting bigger and there's more and more people on that pitch and there's scouts there, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get noticed. And Hudson, unfortunately, is going to fall into that bracket where scouts will turn away as soon as they see him without seeing him play. And I've seen it, I've heard it, I've been told it. So for me, it was not like a now or never kind of thing. And I wanted it for him to have the experience, because a little bit, he's seen all of his friends do it. And he's a kid. He's just a kid. So he sees his friends doing it. So that's what he wants. And it's like anything. If your kid sees another kid in a nice pair of trainers, they want those trainers, and we as parents will do our best to give it to them, and that's what I was trying to do for Hudson. So I think, and I'll be honest, I felt like he deserved it. At the point when he got scouted, I felt like he deserved it because he works. He's relentless. Like he works. His attitude and his work rate at every session he goes to is. I don't see many kids like. If I'm being totally honest, I don't see many kids like him.
And that's one of the things that academy ready kids do. When they go to these sessions, they make sure they get the most out of them. They're dragging you to the park, they're dragging you to the garden, they're dragging you to the sessions and say, Dad, let's get there, let's not be late. I want to do this, I want to do that. And yeah, he was ready. And just to give it some context before I see everyone's off mute now. So just to give it a bit of context, the team that Hudson played for was kind of breaking up, right? Because they won the Echo Cup. Before Proverbs, before Deji's team. And
we got my medal.
Good man. And then a couple of the boys were getting signed, and one was due to sign, and it wasn't quite going to be the same. And then this is your point about Hudson then seeing his mates get signed. And it was a good time for him to get signed. So before we talk about the sign, does anybody have a question for Adam?
My question is probably, I remembered one of them before we go into the academy, is I just wanted to get Adam, you heard me talk about being pure in my thinking of the game. What is your view of the game? How do you see the game in terms of what should it be based on from your perspective? And I know it's slightly loaded, but it's a journey that you've probably been on yourselves. How should the young players be judged when they're being considered for academies? So this is before. What would you be expecting? What are the minimum standards that you were expecting to see or want to see in order for a young person to progress?
Do you know, I think a lot of it has got to do with attitude. I like seeing kids that have a good attitude. You know, when they turn up to training, they go over to their coaches. They spud them. Do you know what I mean? They get involved. But ultimately, it sounds if you have to be a good football player. Like, this is a prime example. I say to everyone, obviously, I get a lot because of Hudson's stature. Hudson played in an academy game against a Cat 1 club, and they had a boy playing central midfield for him, and he was superb. He was one of the best footballers I've seen at their age. He was big, but he wasn't good because he was big. He was good because he was just a good football player. He read the game well. His first touch was good. His passing was good. His range of passing was good. You know, he was a good teammate. You know, if he hurt anyone, he was straight over to see if they're all right. Encouraging it. If his teammates made a mistake, he was encouraging them. For me, that's what it's about. It doesn't matter how big you are. It does. And listen, we're not naive. We're not stupid. I've said this before. Hudson plays a lot in defence. Hudson is probably not going to be a centre-back. I know that. He knows that.
Yeah.
So it does come into play in some certain positions. It does. Unfortunately, it does. But that is football, and that's pretty much been like it from day dot.
But I would say, why not though? If he's a natural born defender, assuming he can defend, he puts his body on the line. If anyone that knows your son, they know he can defend well. Why can't he play defence? Why can't we?
He can't hit the ball.
Martinez, 5'9" Martinez is what you're going.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's
can you not change the narrative? Maybe?
That's fine. That's fine. But like Martinez, that's what one in. If you go through every single Premier League centre half, I bet not many of them are less than 6 foot.
No, you're right. I don't think there are many.
Unfortunately, that's just, I'm being real. Like that's just, you know, it's like a goalkeeper. You're not going to get. Do you know what I mean? That's just unfortunate. That's the nature of it. Hudson's not going to be a centre back, so he's in some it does come into play. But me personally, if you're a good football player, you're a good football player.
Yeah. Okay. Go on, Dan.
Yeah, so me, it's slightly a bit different, kind of the same thing, but so I originally saw you on the sidelines assisting when your son would play with the Ryan. Yeah. To be fair, I didn't know you had a son at the time. I was just watching the game and seeing you up and down the line and be quite vocal, animated. But so going home, yeah, like with Hudson in the car and you've seen him play games, and maybe you've seen scouts there, or you've seen certain things happening. How did you keep the enthusiasm and motivation for him to keep playing and plodding along to get him to where you ultimately thought he was going to be, and he obviously wanted to be? Like separating the dad from the coach scenario.
I'll be honest. I love football, so I'm very passionate about football. Whether that's Tottenham or whether that's Hudson's Grassroots games or whether that's Hudson's Academy games, or even when I go and watch other. I'll go and watch Deji's son play because it's local to me. I'll go and watch them. I just love watching them play. So when with Hudson, it has to come from him. It has to. That I always say to him, if he has a bad game, that's fine. That's not a problem. But your attitude always has to be right, because there's always another game. There's always another game. I say this all the time. That's the best thing about football. There's always another opportunity. That's not the end. That 50 minutes has just happened. It's done. Now you've got, you'll be back training the next day, so you can fix it. So, but he had that. He knows he's at that age now where he knows he may have not done the right thing or may have not played that well. So I don't need to tell him anymore. I don't need to add to it. So he now knows. So when it's just himself now, he's pretty much his own motivation at the minute.
That's good. That's good. So fast forward to the day he got scouted. How was it? How did you feel about his performance before you got the nod or the word that they like him? And then how was that car journey home?
So we didn't actually find out on the day that he got scouted. We didn't actually find out, but there was obviously a lot going on that day. Everyone was obviously very happy what had happened, but that game, Hudson started that final. He was excellent. He was so good, and then I think he made one mistake, and then his head went for a little bit. Like, he knows what the game is. He knows what's at stake. So his head went a little bit, and then he sort of come back into the game. But like I said, with Hudson, he didn't give up. It was that, and I think that is what got noticed by the scouts, and that's what one of the scouts told myself. But what actually happened with that is, following on from that, he went to a group session, and the scout actually come to the group session to watch him. And then I think the team got invited in to go and play the academy that he's at. And that's how it sort of happened.
Yeah, he played well there.
Mm.
I remember his number. Was he number 2?
Number 5.
Number 5 he was, yeah. Yeah, that's right, because we had 2 number 5s.
That's right, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because my son was number 5.
Right, that's it, yeah.
Was number 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when they asked about him, and then obviously that got back to you, and then you went in for, was it a straight trial? Did you have to go development?
No, it was straight trial. It was an 8-week trial. I think it was an 8-week trial, and Hudson did 5 weeks, I think, and then they offered him straight away, pretty much. Well, he did the 5-week trial, then they offered him. He played in a couple of academy games, and then they offered him.
Brilliant. So when Dan brought his showcase team in to that said academy,
yeah,
Hudson played in that game briefly because I think he got hurt in that game. But whereabouts was that? Was that part of the trial, or had he been offered at that point?
No, he was still on trial at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you think he performed during his trial? It sounds like obvious because obviously he got offered after 5 weeks, but you're his biggest critic as well as his biggest fan. Yeah,
again, he went in and he was the same as when he goes to his Monday sessions. He was just the same kid. He was just relentless. He just didn't stop. Work rate was really good. Attitude was good. Yeah, he was. To be fair, in the fight, I couldn't have any criticisms about him for the 5 weeks he was on trial. If I'm being totally honest, he done everything I asked him to do. Worked hard, was happy, got on with all. I said to him, "You've got to." Like I said earlier on, he's not the most confident. He can be very shy, and obviously he's quite daunting going into an academy environment with boys that are already signed and they already know each other. He was lucky that he already knew a couple of the boys there, but he went in and he made friends with everyone, got on well with everyone. Obviously respectful to the coaches, and worked hard. So I couldn't really fault him in his trial, to be honest.
So I'm gonna have 2 more questions before I hand it back over to the guys. So one question for you, and I guess one question about Hudson. So when he went in, he obviously, like you said, it is daunting, but were the boys, were they, as we would say, bad mind? Did they want him to win, or were they trying to unsettle him and make him look bad because they didn't want him to join the group?
No, honestly, the group of boys that he's with now are the loveliest group of boys. You know, they all have fun together. They made him feel welcome when he first come. They didn't. Yeah, it was really. I said to him when he first, obviously not the first time, but after the first couple of weeks, it was like he'd always been there.
Yeah,
he seemed to get on with some of the boys so well. Even so, he knew a couple of boys, like I said. But there was also like a couple of other boys that he ended up just spending when he went training. He would spend more time with them. So it showed me that they were like integrating him really well into the group.
And how nervous were you for him before he went in and started obviously making friends visibly? How nervous were you? Because you live and breathe the game, as you said.
Yeah, I was, but I think it's almost like I wouldn't say desperation, but desperation for them to do well, because I can't do anything. I'm standing. He's the only one, and he's done everything he can do to get there, and it'd have been such a shame for him not to show the best of him while he was on trial. So it was, I was nervous for him, but I was nervous for him. Not I'm desperate for him to get signed. It was I want him to show people how good he is, because like Desi said earlier, listen, some of the stuff that I've had said to me while Hudson's standing next to me is borderline just embarrassing. So he hears this, and he's not a silly kid. He's very bright. He understands. And I've had him in the car crying, saying that I'm never gonna get these opportunities, and I know why, because I'm too small. And I've had that. I've heard it. I've seen it. So it was more for me. It was more for me going to him like, you show them. You just show them how good you are. Yeah. And let your like they said, let your football speak for itself.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And well done for not putting additional pressure on him, because it could have been easy, wanting it so badly for him, given the fact that he wants it and obviously has a slight disposition because of society and profiling, etc.
Yeah.
So, no, you did well. That allowed him to be not nervous and just play free by the sounds of it, make friends and play free. So, well done. Dan or Dej, I know you got questions. I know I'm hogging it. So
you took one of my questions. You took that one.
Which one?
Questions about people evil eye, bad minding him about the players.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do, I got to have like the flip side, because you hear it all the time from parents. They say, "Did you ever feel that negative energy towards you?" Thinking, because parents have a different opinion to like the boys and the players. So you're always gonna hear, "He's not good enough to be here. Why is he really here?" Or that's there in the academy, and in a grassroots scene, did you ever feel the energy from the parents saying like, "Oh, why has Hudson got an opportunity? He isn't that great anyway. He's so small," kind of thing.
I have heard that.
I've got
in or out?
Out
in the academy or outside of the academy, so grassroots.
Outside it. Yeah, grassroots.
You hear it all the time, and what I'm gonna say is, because we have this conversation all the time, especially in the lower cats, maybe not so much in terms of Cat 1, because that's where the elitist boys normally are. Did did Hudson find the transition from being in a really good grassroots team to go into a Cat 2, a team that's not renowned for being the best in its in a game program? How did he settle into that, and how do you think the difference is between the fine margin between the boys that are in that academy Hudson is and the boys that may be on the peripheral outside?
I think that we should not underestimate how good. See, obviously, I can only speak for the Echo because I know that from growing up and from Hudson playing it, Echo A is the best league, in my opinion. Yeah. You cannot underestimate how good that league is and how there are so many talented kids in that league. So in my point of view, and this is nothing to discredit anyone that plays in academies, in my opinion, ability-wise, academy and grass Echo A, I don't think there's a great deal of difference, in my opinion. There are some kids, don't get me wrong, they're just silly. But from my point of view, it's the intensity of the games. It is like Echo A is very high intense, but the academy level is another level above that. And what you have to remember is that's for 80 minutes. For me, that's where the difference lies. It's is the fitness, and it's so physical. And for 9 and 10-year-olds to be doing that for 80 minutes, it's a lot. And that's the only, in my opinion, that's the difference. It's the intensity of the games, and obviously the length of the games. So like where Hudson is quite, I suppose, lucky because the squad's not that big. So I think Hudson's average minutes was something like 73 minutes across the season. So it's a lot.
Yeah. But
I think that's where the difference lies. It's the physical and the intensity side of the games. Don't get me wrong. You go to some, and there's some players that are just, you look and you go, that's ridiculous. But that's, in my opinion, that's few and far between.
But it makes a huge difference. I found this. I recognise this. Sorry, Dan. Just to add on to what you're saying, though, Adam. You said Hudson's average minutes was 73 minutes, right? You take when they were playing sevens. Obviously, we're moving to nines.
Yeah.
But when they're playing sevens in Echo, it is intense. But if you've got 9 in your squad at sevens, your average minutes are 37.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So Hudson's playing double what they're playing at a slightly more physical and slightly more intense level.
Yeah.
So then he's training 3 times a week, playing that. There creates a little bit of separation from the ability to the fitness. And then with the fitness in the latter stages of the game, the concentration and the decision making.
That's
right?
it.
So I make you right there. But I also make you right. The level of Echo A is pretty high, especially if we're looking at Cat 3, some Cat 2s.
Yeah.
So yeah, to your point. Sorry,
Definitely.
Dan, back to you.
No, it's fine. I know Deja's got a bundle of questions.
No, I just wanted to follow on from Dan really and just say, obviously, I don't know if you guys are aware, but Adam's son was with my club actually before he went to his academy. We got one game though, which was a killer. So I was like, "Where are you going?" At the car at the car park. So we got one game from his son officially before he went off and did what he did.
I heard that.
I just want to know the good, the bad, the ugly. We hear about the academy. We hear about the games. We hear about the long journeys. We hear about the competitions. If you could just take maybe 5-minute deep breath, the highs, the lows, what we as parents haven't seen physically, because the grass always seems greener. But I'm asking you, is it greener?
Like this is the hard thing, because if I talk from my side, there's a lot, but ultimately it isn't about me. It's about Hudson. If he wants to do it, and if he's happy and he's enjoying it, and that's what he wants to do, I'll do anything for him, and I'll give him any opportunity that he wants. But what I will say is I'm in a very lucky position, because I've only got Hudson. I'll be honest, I don't know how people with other children do it or how they split their time, because we struggle, and it's just me, Hudson, and his mum. So we can both go to training. It doesn't matter. There isn't no one at home. Do you know what I mean? We're not leaving anyone behind. Or, you know, come a game on a Sunday and we've got to go to Norwich. We're not leaving anyone behind. So that is where I am really fortunate. I know I'm lucky in that sense. But going back to the main part of the question, I'll be honest, I'm not sure how much consideration. It's almost like with the children, sometimes they do forget that they're only children. Yeah, they've still got to go to school. They've still got to get up, you know, and I'm not sure that that's taken into consideration a lot, but that's what you sign up for. So, and I said, funny enough, I said this the other day. A lot of people you speak to in academies, they moan, right? And I'm guilty of it. I'm the same. But ultimately, you can't keep moaning about something, and basically, it can't be that bad if you're staying. If it was that bad, you just take your kid away and leave. So you can moan as much as you like, but you're still there. So that's the attitude that I've taken now. Just be quiet and just let Hudson get on with it. And as long as he's happy, I'm happy. It's fine.
Can you give us two of the... Sorry, Des. I want to get into what you want to get into, the knit and the grit. That's where you want Adam to go. And obviously, we respect the fact that obviously it doesn't take too much to knit or put the dots together to work out which academy we're talking about, although we're not naming them. So you've got to be careful what you say. But are you able to talk about a couple of the things you moan about? Is one the travel? Something else?
The travel's not great because mine's more Hudson's welfare. The late nights for him, and then he's got to get up for school. The travelling is the travelling, unfortunately. Everyone has to do it. So I did a lot of the travelling when Hudson was playing in the Echo League anyway. So it's not, that's by the by really, but it's more Hudson's welfare. The late nights, getting up for school, being tired all the time, has to do his extras. So he has to do his sessions on a Monday, making sure he rests enough. It's very difficult. It is. And like I said, I've only got Hudson to worry about. But
what time does training finish? Sorry.
8 o'clock.
What time do you get home? And what time does he get to bed, more importantly?
10 to 9. Gets in bed by 9:30.
So 9:30, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Right.
But so to put that in context, Hudson's normally used to be in bed by 7:30.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, so 2 hours late, 3 times a week.
Yeah. And he's still got to get up to school.
And he's got these other sessions which may finish or get him to bed a bit later than 7:30.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Potentially. And then he's may total travel time 4 hours on a weekend if you're away and down the South Coast or the Midlands. Right. Yeah. Just for context, right? Because people do not realize this. And also you probably have to get to games an hour before. Play the 80-minute match, which you're working out, it's like an hour and a half. And then by the time they're done, add another half an hour. So that's literally 3 hours on match day before you consider traveling.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the thing. Like, I think and the other thing I don't think as parents we give ourselves enough credit. Yeah. Because, you know, some sessions that whether it's academy training, grassroots training, or a private session or whatever, it doesn't matter what time it is. We'll always get a kid there. So we'll move stuff around. Everyone's got jobs, everyone's got work, but we will still manage to do that for them. So I think parents don't take enough credit either, 100% for what they do. And again, like I said, I'm lucky I've only got one. So if you've got more than one, and maybe you've got 2 boys that are playing football, I don't know how people do it.
That's when you become ships in the night.
Yeah, I think parents do need to give themselves a lot of credit for what they do on a day. And now it's not just the weekend; it's a day-to-day thing.
Yeah,
it's every day. It's relentless.
Will Hudson listen to this?
Yeah.
Father's Day's coming up, Hudson. Just saying. Sorry, Dej.
Yeah, no, and also, you know, he's got to hear his dad talk about him as well, which is an amazing thing. So big up. No, I guess for me that's the other side that I kind of wanted to kind of delve into and understand. Just listening to you talk about that, I'm just like, wow, you know, the 3 times a week, the away matches. Because on the outside, it sounds amazing when you know you're going up to play Nottingham Forest for the weekend, but no one's thinking about the mileage, the fuel cost, the hotel cost. You know what I mean? And these are expenses that more time you haven't budgeted for. So these are extras, and you can't not do them, if you know what I mean. Because if you don't do them, you can't really leave your child alone. Really, I know sometimes for the international ones, some parents don't go because it's just like it's getting a bit ridiculous. But actually, for me, just listening to you is like, be careful what you wish for. You know what I mean? You know, it makes me think like maybe I'm not quite ready for that, especially with my personal work commitments. If I'm having to move things around, there are weeks I can't move things around, and it's not just a week. There's several weeks of that. So just listening to how you guys are coping, I just want to say that's amazing and well done for you guys.
The one thing you have to remember though, like, it's for the kids. It's their experience. Like it's for everything you do is for them. When they grow up and they get older, they can say they've been and played at. So regardless of how long this journey lasts, he has got these memories to look back on forever. So he can say that he went to wherever he played. Do you know what I mean? Whatever stadium, he can say all this. So you do it for the experience for the kids.
Yeah.
And I think every kid deserves it. I'm one of them. You know me, Dej. I champion everyone. I want everyone to do well. So I want every kid to have that experience because it is so good for them.
Yeah. It is good for them, but I don't think every child is ready, right?
Oh, no.
I've touched on this.
That's a good point. We had someone come in on trial. Fair play to his parents. He come in on trial, done 2 weeks maybe, did 2 weeks, played 1 game, played 2 games for 2 weeks. After the second game, his parents pulled him out because he just wasn't ready. But his parents, they didn't try and prolong it. They didn't try and push him. They just said, look, he's just not ready, and took him out. Done. When you
say not ready, sorry, Adam, you're talking about mentally not ready or ability?
A bit of both. Yeah. And fair play to the parents. They went, he's not ready, pulled him out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and this is the point I made about when you said Hudson's mentality, because once the novelty wears off and it may get a bit hard and it gets a bit jarring and they're constantly tired and it's the 3rd session of the week and they've had a late night over the weekend because it's a birthday party, because they still have to be kids or whatever it is, and they don't want to go or they don't feel like going, but they still drag themselves there. They still have to get through that session and they still have to try and get something out of that session. And then it's not long before there's another session or a game, and rinse and repeat, right? This is why I say a lot of boys are not ready for it, because they have to be self-motivated. They have to be dedicated. They have to want to improve. And if they don't have that, they can't be an academy player, because it is arduous. It is almost double probably what you do for the average child in grassroots football.
Yeah. Can I ask one more question? And I feel like you know, the same for the parents as well. You know, they've got to be motivated and want it. As I think the parents' motivation or the want has to be almost match the child, because if the parents are not on it, then they don't make that extra effort to make sure that they're there. It can also have an impact. Adam, you mentioned something that I really want to know, actually, and I think in the previous pod we might have talked about it, but it'd be good to hear your perspective. I've heard you say a number of times that your son does the extras.
Yeah.
the whole point of academy is that you get there so you don't need the extras. So the question I'm asking you is why?
See, that's that's the reality, though. You know, that's ideally you'd be able to go academies and that's all they do, but you got to think about it realistically. You know, again, Hudson is really lucky where the academy is that there's not a huge group of kids. But you go to some of these Cat 1 camp, there's 26 boys and there's 3 coaches. How much time can they devote to your child and developing just your child? He may need specific work on a certain thing. The coaches, I always say they've got such a hard job. I think coaches across the board, you know, grassroots, academy, whatever, they've got a very difficult job. So I like Hudson to keep on top of his other bits. And also the coaches that he goes and sees, he's seen them since he was like 3 or 4. So I'd never want him to lose touch with those coaches because they've played an important part in his life. You know, so I'd never want him not to see them. You're right. In an ideal world, you'd be able to go academy training and that's it. But that's not the reality, unfortunately. You have to keep. I always say this: you have to keep up what you was doing that got him there in the first place, and that's it. And that's what I do with Hudson.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
To a point, obviously, if he's tired, he doesn't go.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to go, he doesn't go. I never force him to go anywhere, but I'll be honest, I can count on my hand how many times he said he doesn't want to do a session. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in quickly. A few things, Adam. So, I always go back to this because it's my profession in my life, welfare and safeguarding. So, you spoke about welfare and everything else. So, do you think, I know you're talking about, I'm going to say not your club because that's obviously, you know, do you think these clubs do enough, though, on the flip side? It's all great coaching them on the physical football, running around, the technical side of playing football. The other side where the boys actually really do struggle is the mentalness, whether it's mental fatigue, the expectation of being good every single session, and then the fear factor, which we've just literally passed, I guess, and the boys at your club experienced it, a couple of them, as I know, that release moment. So the aftercare of not being there anymore. And you said like your friends that you've grown up from being a kid playing football, and Hudson going in there now and against his boys that were his friends, he may not see again because the nature of the beast is once you're gone, you're gone.
That's a good question, and that's what I don't. I'll be honest, I don't think they do enough on the mental side. And funny enough, I think this is going to become huge in, especially kids football, is sports psychology. That is just going to. I think you'll see in the next year or two. You know, obviously we all take our boys to private one-to-ones. That is going to be the next big. That is going to be the next thing is sports psychology one-to-ones. That is going to just blow up because I don't think you're right. Listen, I've heard stories from some academies and what they do for their boys once they're released is unbelievable. So it's not all academies. From what I've heard, some academies do for their boys once they're released is very, very good. You know, they probably couldn't do any more. But in general, I don't think they do. I don't think welfare for the children is taken into consideration. Definitely not. And it should be.
Well,
Definitely.
guys, I'm here. Niche in the market. I'm here.
Honestly, you wait. I reckon that is going to be the next big one-to-one thing is sports psychology.
I think we spoke about this before about, well, more so in our safeguarding episode we did, where I think there's so much that needs to be done. There's so many people that just tick boxes to say we do it, but don't actually do it. I think the age our boys are, the aftercare for players isn't as much as, I guess, the boys that were 14, 15, 16. I think there's a big gap in terms of what clubs do and what they offer and what they say they do. And I think looking at it from outside, because obviously I'm not there, I don't see it every day, I'm not around it, I feel this accountability needs to be taken across the board. And that's from the governing bodies. I'm talking about the FA as well. So we can put it on the clubs and everything else, but ultimately everyone governs under one umbrella, which is the FA. So I think that needs to be more accountable and governed and quality assured. That these boys that do go through a lot in a space of 2 years, probably 4 years if you go through pre-academy as well, to be there and the stress of being good every single week. And I think it's hard. And I've had another question I was saying to you, Adam, because I've had a few conversations in the last couple of weeks with parents that are either at academies or have just been released. They've all said the coaching is absolutely terrible. None of the coaches actually made that any better. If anything, some parents have said their boy have gone backwards because of the coaching.
Yeah,
I don't want you to name it. I don't want you to put yourself in trouble.
No, of course, no. I listen. Like I said, the coaches have a very difficult job because they've got so many boys to look after. So it is very difficult for them to pinpoint your kid and what his particular needs are. But I will say this: I can only speak for myself and Hudson. I don't know whether it's because Hudson has such a good set of coaches around him that he goes and sees. So I see their sessions and I'm like, oh, this is obviously Deji knows obviously Proverbs, you know, those coaches there. We're so lucky that the quality of coaching we have access to, are we just privileged because we get such good coaching? And if we get anything that's not as good as that, we see it as not good. Does that make sense? You know, like most coaches outside of academies now are academy coaches. They've been in academies, but they've come out, started their own business, and that's how it works. That's how it works now, unfortunately. So all those top coaches all coming out, we get to see them. We go training with them. We're like, oh, this is amazing. And then the other coaching might be good. It might be okay. It's just not as good as what we're used to.
Well navigated.
Or not as experienced. Navigated.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's a point there though, right? There's not enough money. As much as there's so much money in football, the coaches are obviously not being paid enough that they're stepping out to create their own business. And maybe it's just independence, but I feel like they're not being paid enough. So therefore that quality goes out the door.
I think so as well. I think what you say there, I think a lot of clubs have a methodology, and some of these coaches don't actually agree with the method or the coaching ethos of these clubs, and are not allowed to have free reign to do certain sessions. So I think on the flip side, they do leave financially beneficial for themselves, and they can coach how they want to coach.
Yeah.
No, for real.
That's
you
issue.
got any more? Let Dan answer his questions because he's saying he doesn't get to answer them.
No, it's not about a question. I thought we were having a conversation today. It's not about a question, just a nice free flow. But about it's good. About they're my main things. They're the questions I wanted to get out there, and obviously the welfare one, which is always for me, that's always going to be key and priority in terms of these conversations.
I think as parents as well, though, we have a lot of say in obviously the child's welfare and how they are. Obviously, we see them on a day-to-day basis. We see them after games. We see them, when they're not happy. And I've said this. I've been one of those parents that have had the conversations in the car after games and done all this. And I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were saying that it's just got a bit out of hand. You know, they know they're doing it. They're fully aware of what they're doing. They just can't stop. And I said, well, one thing you have to remember, once you've done that, that might be a 5-minute conversation in a car. It's going to take a long time to rectify that now. So it took me. Sorry, go on.
So saying that, so if, for example, you've been in football, you know it's about. What about those parents? And I don't want to be lynched here in the comments. The mums, the soccer mums that don't have the in-depth knowledge of how football works. Do you think, as a whole, maybe clubs should provide these workshops for parents? I know something. Don't get me wrong. I know plenty of clubs do workshops all the time about the safeguarding workshop, the awareness workshop. But do you think maybe clubs and the pastoral side of welfare in these clubs maybe look at parents away from the player and say, look, we want to educate you, we want to give you guidance, what's good and what's not good, and what's good practice to make you better football parents.
100%. If this, listen, I'm not gonna lie and say I've been the perfect football parent, because I definitely haven't been. If that was something that was around when Hudson sort of started playing, you know, seven-ish, 8, looking back on it now, that is something that I could have definitely had. You know what I mean? Because I was one of those parents. I was very frustrated all the time, and so, but that happens. That's not just me. I know a lot of people that have been like that, or are still like it. So that would, I think, again, going back to what I was saying about the sports psychology side of it, that's going to be another thing where sports psychologists sit down with the child and the parent to find out what can you both do better? Can you do better? Can the child do better? And I think that's going to become such a big part of youth football in maybe the next year or two.
Yeah, I think you're right, because hopefully that will help with the relationship, right, between, let's just say, father and son, because typically fathers are the ones, I know you've got soccer moms, but it's that father-son dynamic that you hear Frank Lampard, Thierry Henry, Peter Crouch, the list goes on to speak about. And if you look at Henry's case, he's got a fractured relationship with his dad to the point where he stopped his dad from coming to games. So that's actually wild when we think about it, because if they weren't in football, would that relationship have been fractured in that to that extent? So I make you right there, Adam.
And the thing is, though, you got to think of what if there is no football? If that makes sense, you know, like if you took me and Hudson for example, and he's 10 soon, and then by the time he gets to 13, he's not playing anymore. Just for argument's sake, all of those years of shouting and roaring and upsetting him literally for nothing. So there's no point to it.
Yeah.
You have to be so careful on how you communicate with your child. It's so important. And it's taken me a long time to realise it.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, taken a long time.
Mate, here, mate. I second that.
Yeah. So Adam, we're running long. We're running
That's
long,
all.
and it's keeping you late. I'm going to ask 2 questions in one. What is the biggest thing? If you could take one thing that you missed the most from grassroots football, what is it? And if you weren't in academy, or if Hudson weren't in academy, what is the one thing you would miss the most from academy football?
The thing I miss most, definitely easy answer to the grassroots, is the family setting that you get in academy football. Like grassroots football, sorry. You know, Hudson's team we played for last year was the best environment for kids to play football in. The parents stood on the sideline, they watched the games, they cheered the goals. That was it. There was no shouting. There was no telling the kids what to do. It was they trusted the manager, and that was it. But everyone got on so well. The social side of it was brilliant. That's what I missed the most. And from a selfish point of view, obviously wherever Hudson sort of played, I've always ended up helping out, and you end up getting such a good bond with the kids, having a laugh and messing around. You don't get that really in academies, because you take them, they're taken into the changing rooms, they're changed, coaches take them out, they drop back at the change rooms, you take them home. There's no, I just like that, like the banter between the kids and having a laugh, making them, like watching them mess around. Yeah, it's the family side of the grassroots. It's just a big thing for me. I love that side of it. And listen, like obviously you've got things like this podcast. You know, we're all from grassroots football. We all get on well. That's where we know each other from.
Yeah.
So it's such a big part. Even now, like I was saying about Hudson growing up, that's going to be his social side. It still is my social side.
Yeah.
So that's what I miss the most. If there's any, listen, it's what I would miss taking Hudson to these. I know we're saying about the driving and the miles and all that, but I would miss taking Hudson to these nice places and watching him play football.
The experiences.
Yeah, it makes me so proud to watch him because he's been told no so many times. So for me to watch him, I think that obviously that's my view. He's been told no a lot. So to watch him play at these nice football these nice grounds, lovely football pitches, I'd miss watching that.
Yeah, I make you right there also. It is a good experience.
Mm.
And there is a feeling of pride when you see your boy run out.
Yeah, definitely.
Andrew, I think that was a really great 2 questions, to be fair. I think that the questions kind of wrapped up some of the things that I was kind of thinking to kind of ask Adam. So, yeah, I don't think I have any other. I mean, Adam, you know, I guess it's a bit of an obvious question, but I guess it would be good to just hear what's the ambition, man? Because he's there, he's getting the experience. You're doing that, but
listen, the ultimate goal for Hudson is to be a football player. Whatever level that he's at, is for him to be a footballer and never to fall out of love of playing football, because it's something that you can do until you're not as old as I am, because you don't want to get hurt like me. But it's something that you can do. Longevity, you know, we're still talking about football now. It's something you can do forever. But I have always said to Hudson, football isn't just about football. You know, if you're in that environment, I said, if you don't become a football player, you can become a physio. If you don't become a physio, you can always be involved in football in some capacity. And there's some great jobs in football. You can become a coach. You can become a manager. You can, do you know what I mean? It's not just about playing the game, which ultimately, listen, that is the goal. But there's so many other different avenues you can go down and still be involved in it.
Adam, it's what day? It's the 1st of August, 2033.
I might be here.
So it's 1st of August, 2033. Hudson's probably just turned 18 or due to turn 18. What is the dream?
I'm playing for Tottenham Hotspur.
Come on.
That's
a dream, not nightmare.
That would be my dream. It's just watching him.
Adam, sorry, stop. You're a guest, so you won't get a yellow card for this. Yeah,
he's not getting a yellow card. He's not getting a yellow card.
I said he won't get a yellow card for it. He won't.
Yeah, he wouldn't get one anyway.
But I'm outnumbered by 3-1. I see this.
I just think I always say, like, obviously when you see players walk out for their clubs, or whether that's for England or whatever, and you just think how proud their parents must be to watch their kid coming out to whatever 60,000 people, must be the best feeling ever. So that would be the dream.
Fantastic.
Cool.
But equally, you'd be as proud of him if he walks out in front of 2,500 people.
Or 15 over Beckton's
pyramids. Listen, if he's still playing when he's, you know, when I'm older, then I've done something right. That's all I think. You know, like we said, the social side will still be there for him. He'll have fitness, friends for life. He's not sitting indoors on his computer.
And so would he have done very well to be playing, still doing what he's doing. So
yeah,
fingers crossed and
yeah, I make you right, Adam. I'm just going to leave it on this. If we didn't have football, what would we be doing at 9 o'clock on a weeknight? We'd be watching Love Island, and nobody wants to do that.
Deji's recorded it.
Yeah, I'll be watching it after this.
Adam, thank you for your time. It's been great.
No, I really appreciate you inviting me on.
No, brilliant. It's brilliant, man. And also, like, it's, I always say that it's amazing that when we do these podcasts and you get to see the other side of people as well. And, you know, sometimes we just don't appreciate, we just hear and see. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you don't appreciate the level of sacrifice, the level of time, the commitment but also like the encouragement and self-belief. And you know, I met Adam maybe about 2 years ago at a club locally, and he believed, and your belief was right, and I believe, and I'm sure no doubt you believe he can go all the way. Do you know what I mean? And I hope that's what he does, you know, because he deserves it, and all the boys deserve it. Do you know what I mean? But keep up the good work, keep pushing, keep plugging away, keep fighting, and you know, and the future's bright, 100%.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, and good luck. Good luck. And you know what? If we're around in 8 years' time, you'll be coming back on to tell us he's making his debut at that on that Hello Turf.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed.
I will say this though, just politely, because publicly, because people who know me know. If he gets that England call and it just happens to be on a World Cup year, I expect to be on that. And if I'm not on that plane, I will be chucking tomatoes at that white T-shirt of yours. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause I know you like so just know that, yeah. And we've got this, because this ain't getting deleted. This is going into this is forever.
Those are the views of Deji Spurs and Deji Spurs alone, not ball at all costs. Just saying. Listen, guys, if you're still with us, please take a second to subscribe, hit the notification, hit the like button. If you're listening on the audio feed, like, review, comment, all of that good stuff. Adam's taking his time out to give you an insight into academy life from a parent, from a player, and I've learned a lot. Hopefully you've learned a lot. So tell a friend to tell a friend. We know you're new to true to this. Tell somebody who's new to this. And on that note, it's good night from us.
Good night.
See ya.